America, not just Canada, but WFG North America. So guys, we're so blessed to have him as our leader and him running this organization. And he's just a good man. He's a family man, became a great friend of ours. And so with that, without any further ado, let's give a big warm round of applause for Gregg.
So awesome to be here with you guys. Thank you to the organizers for putting it on. I know a lot of people are getting a lot of value out of this. And is anybody else thinking, why is he wearing sunglasses at night? I don't know what the answer to that question is. Pretty sure we're at the Calgary Stampede, and Andrea and I were kind of newly dating, and that was back in the day when I used to be on Facebook, and Jen found it on Facebook. So I hadn't seen that picture in forever, but I actually kind of like that picture. So, good evening. It's so awesome to be here. For those of you who might not know my background, so I've been doing this now for over 21 years, about 21 and a half years. I'm 43 years old, so that means I've been doing this for pretty much half my life. And, you know, for those of you that are starting in your 20s or 30s, or really whatever age it happens to be, but this is the type of company, the type of business that you can build your life around. Now, maybe one concept that I'll slide into there is that for a period of time, I built my life around my business, meaning I placed a lot of priorities on my business. Now, that doesn't mean that I didn't have time for my family and my friends and, you know, exercising and stuff like that. But for a period of time, I didn't have time for a whole lot else, or I chose not to have time for a whole lot else. But then a few years later, now I can plan and run my business around my life. So I prioritize my business for a period of time, not more important than my family. Certainly, if you're a person of faith, you don't have to make this business more important than that. But I made it more important than a lot of things in my life that didn't really serve me. You know, I didn't need to play golf, and that shows. I'm not a very good golfer now because I took like 10 years off. We'll say that that's why. And, you know, I didn't go to a lot of hockey games. I didn't, you know, on a weeknight, if my friends are like, hey, we're going out to the bar, we're going for drinks, we're going for dinner, whatever it was. If it was a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night, I was working. And for the most part, especially during the week, I wasn't going to go meet them afterwards because I needed to be at the office at 9 o'clock the next morning. So I prioritized my business over a lot of things for a period of time, but then you get to a point where you can kind of flip that script. So background is my family used to own a Booster Juice franchise, and I used to make $1,200 every 2 weeks. So in my highest income year before this business, I made a whopping $32,000. And if you break it into an hourly wage, it's even less impressive, because to make that $32,000, I would say that I'm conservative in estimating that I worked 60 hours a week. So you divide 60 hours a week making 32 grand, it's not a lot. So I hope that gives you a little bit of hope that even if you don't come from any sort of background of making a lot of money, or your family having a lot of money, that you can still do it. If you don't come from a wealthy family, then a wealthy family needs to come from you. I've always liked that phrase since I heard it for the first time. Had some major challenges in the business, just like anybody else. I wasn't very good at studying. I was unfortunate, you know, it came back to haunt me when I was studying for my HLLQP, but I was the kind of, I didn't skip school very much, but I was okay getting 60 or 70, you know, like, hey, as long as I pass, I'm good with that kind of thing. But then I didn't know how to study. And so then when it came to studying the LLQP back in 2003, I almost quit this business on multiple occasions because I couldn't pass the course because I didn't know how to study, and I had lazy study habits and all that sort of thing. So I almost quit the business because of that. I also had people around me, luckily a few people around me, namely my mom and dad. They were very supportive, kind of cheering me on. But I also had some people in my life that were very negative. You're not going to make any money doing that. I read something online, or whatever it happened to be. And there were times, you know, if I had a good day, maybe I passed my exam, or I got a new teammate, or I helped a client, that the things that they were saying didn't really matter much. But when I had things that weren't going my way in the business, maybe I failed an exam, my recruit quit, my client said no, whatever it happened to be, then those little things that people could be saying kind of eat away at you a bit. And I just mention those things just more than anything as a reminder that on your journey to be successful, we all go through those things. And I believe that we all go through those types of things, regardless of what it is that we want to be successful. I think that was an important realization that I made somewhere along the way. And I'm not saying it's going to be exactly the same in other careers and other businesses, but if you know anybody that has a life that you really kind of admire and that you wish that maybe you had some aspects of their life, I promise you that they went through phases in their life where they worked extremely, extremely hard to put themselves in that sort of situation. And, that's one of the things that actually just drives me the craziest about social media these days is that social media and there's so many good things about it too, don't get me wrong, but there's all these people that are kind of putting up this facade of this lifestyle that they have and this money that they're making. And first of all, it might not even be true, right? But second, even if it is true and they're kind of trying to display to the world that they don't really work, if it's true that they don't work that much right now, I promise you that they worked their butt off to get to the point where their life is actually like that. So I went through all those types of things that the challenges that you're all facing or you have faced, and that many of your teammates will face. A couple points that I want to cover. Do I have a timer up there somewhere? Okay, perfect. So one of the things I want to talk about is confidence and how do you grow your confidence? I think that it would be pretty normal if somebody was, in their 20s or whatever it happened to be, but also people coming from other careers. But it'd be very normal for somebody in their 20s coming into this business and lacking confidence. And you could be lacking confidence because you don't have a lot of life experience. Maybe you've never had a professional career. Certainly you're new to the financial industry. So how do you increase your confidence? Right? I remember shaking in my boots when I'm meeting with a client to do, at the time, what would have been my biggest investment transfer of my career. It's like $150,000. And I was like shaking talking to the client about it because it was the first time anybody had ever had a serious conversation with me about investing that type of money. I mean, I'm in my early 20s and they were probably in their, late 40s or early 50s or something like that at the time. So what are some things that you could do? One thing is being a student of the business and paying as much attention to everything as you possibly can, right? A big part of how things turn out for you in this business is going to come back to how serious do you take it? I also realize that not everybody here necessarily wants the same thing, so we need to take that into account. But if you want to help enough people, make enough money to get yourself to the point where you can consistently take care of yourself, pay your bills, and then maybe beyond that, actually be able to make a lot of money and have an incredible life, then it just makes sense that you need to actually get good at this. And getting good at anything requires time. So you got to be a student of the business. You've got to pay attention. When you go on appointments with your trainer, it's not just to sit back and watch them do the work, but it's to learn how to do it so that you can get to the point where you don't need them anymore, right? For me, did I read extra product partner materials? And, it wasn't as easy back in the day. We didn't have Zoom webinars and all of that type of thing. But instead of watching TV, for example, I would read up and learn products, and I would read books about marketing, and I would read books about sales, and I would read books about leadership. One example of kind of a bit of a, some people would think it was a bit of a crazy sacrifice that I made at the time, which sounds silly to use the word sacrifice and television in the same sentence. But somewhere around 2004, 2005, I started in 2003, I realized that having a TV was not serving me, and that having a TV, because I'm human just like everybody else, if I got home from all of my appointments at 9 or 10 o'clock, back in the day that we used to have to drive to all of them, right? And if I had a TV, what was I going to do? I was going to turn the TV on, probably watch sports highlights or Seinfeld reruns or who knows what it was, kill an hour. And that was an hour that I could have spent reading good books. So I just got rid of my TV. And so I didn't have a TV for, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years, something like that. And when we got TV back, was when my wife and I were married. she was pregnant, and I came home one day and we had TV. Not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I knew that that wasn't probably, you know, something I really wanted to battle. And so pouring time and energy into things that were going to improve, improve me, and in every way, my skills, my mindset, all of those types of things, so that I could get better at this. And then certainly there's going to be some people that say, well, I don't think I want to do that. Well, guess what? You don't have to do that. You don't have to aspire to make $100,000 or $500,000 or $1 million a year in this business. You don't have to aspire to that. The message that I'm trying to get across is that if you have really big goals as to what you want to accomplish here, then realistically, you need to make a big commitment if that's the type of results that you want to get. Being young, new, dealing with older people. Remember, here's something I told myself, is that, you kind of sit there and you go, oh man, I'm 23, this is so hard. And I'm not dumping on you if you have those thought processes. I had those types of thought processes, but give yourself some grace, a little bit of reminder. Guess what? Regardless of the age, everybody starts brand new in this industry. Whether somebody's 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 or 60, if they're an advisor, well, at one point, they were brand new. So give yourself a little bit of grace. Leverage your SMD and your trainer, meaning use them to help you with appointments, use them to help you build plans or review your plans. But the thing is, you want to make sure is that you're actually earning their time. Right? Meaning I wasn't booking time with my SMD to just sit and talk about nothing. Rial wasn't going to do that. Right? But I was constantly making phone calls, booking up my schedule, doing tons of appointments. And so then guess what? When my SMD saw my commitment level and my activity level, then Rial wanted to help me with everything that he possibly could. And I believe that your leadership, your senior marketing directors you work with, would approach things the exact same way. A little bit on the mindset, okay? This was a really important one. I've said this many times, the skills of this business are not that hard to learn, at least the basics. You've just got to put in some time. So one of the difference makers between you being successful or not being successful is going to be the way that you think. And I remember very consciously thinking, probably Rial said something to me, or I heard a speaker say it, and it planted the seed in my mind to realize, okay, I'm 22 years old. It's not the easiest industry to get into when you're 22 years old. My background was way different. My family wasn't wealthy. And I remember thinking, even if it takes me 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, even if it takes me 5 years to get good at this business and get to the point where I can actually support myself, then I'm still going to be way better off than any other path that I know about. And I still believe that to this day. Even if it would have taken me 5 years to get to the point where I could have left our Booster Juice store to come full-time doing this, that still would have been way better than the path that I was on. Another mindset thing is if you can find a way to embrace the fact that being successful isn't easy. It's not easy to be successful in this business. Guess what? When I think about a bunch of my not WFG friends that are really successful, buddy of mine that owns a home building company, buddy of mine that's a chiropractor, buddy of mine that's an ER doctor, buddy of mine that's that owns an oil field company, a real estate company, whatever it is. These people make pretty good money and they have pretty awesome lives. Guess what? Those things are not easy either. Right? So it doesn't matter what it is that you're trying to do at a high level. It's not going to be easy. There's no business that I know of where they just go around handing out $500,000 a year salaries for nothing. So I convinced myself that I was actually happy that this business wasn't easy. Here's how I did that. Tell a long story very quickly. I'm getting ready to go to an appointment. I'm meeting a client that needs insurance. They need a whole plan, right? Let's say they were 28 years old-ish, couple of kids, mortgage, debt, little bit of investments, no insurance, bunch of debt, field training appointment with them 1 week, going back to do the carry back, let's say tonight. And I'm getting ready to leave the house, got my suit on, I'm ready to go. I get a phone call from them. I answer the phone. They want to cancel the appointment. Okay, when do you want to reschedule for? How about tomorrow? How about the next day? Whatever. no, Greg, we're not meeting with you. We're not interested. And in my mind, first of all, I hope that I was thinking about them first and foremost, that I had a great plan for them. And they had kids and they had no life insurance. And
I
they,
didn't talk.
and they needed what I was going to be offering them. I'm sure as well it crept into my mind that, you know, I had a mortgage payment and, you know, all those types of things. Like I needed to make paychecks to be able to, you know, just sustain myself. And after I got that phone call, I remember feeling sorry for myself. Oh, why is this business so hard? Why don't more people say yes? Don't they realize that I'm just trying to help them? You know, on and on and on and on. And then it kind of dawned on me, wait a minute, here's a better way to look at this. I'm actually happy that this business isn't easy, because if this business was easy, everybody would be doing it and there would basically be no opportunity left for any of us, right? If WFG had 500,000 agents in Canada already, I don't know how to predict whether we could still grow from there or not, but I think we can all accept the fact we have around 20 or 25,000 agents in Canada brings better growth opportunities for all of us compared to having 500,000. And then I told myself, I said, I realize that this is hard and not everybody's going to do it, but I'm the person that's actually willing to put in the work. And so I'm going to get the benefits because I'm actually willing to put in the work. One more quick story I can kind of weave into that one is that when people say no or people quit, they don't always tell you what the reason is. So you need to be careful of what reasoning you make up in your mind, right? So I get that phone call, this exact situation. I'm feeling sorry for myself. And then what am I thinking? I'm thinking, oh, they don't want to do business with me because I'm young. They, you know, I didn't do a good job meeting with them. They read something online, and I'm going down this spiral of trying to figure out, why they didn't want to get back together. Interesting, sadly, but interesting. About a month or two later, I found out from the person that had booked the field training appointment that couple was now getting divorced. And so that kind of explained they didn't want to do a whole bunch of financial stuff. Their marriage was on the rocks and they weren't going to be together. And that was a really good example for me of why it was important that I didn't jump to conclusions as to why maybe somebody said no, because the reality is you just don't know. I feel like that's a good topic, so I'll share one more example on that one. This is when I'm very newly licensed. Maybe I'm not even an SMD yet. I don't know. I've been in the business for like a year or two. And I get referred to this woman. No, I meet her through field training. She's got an RSP. She's got a mortgage. She wants to put away a couple $100 a month. We move the RSP. We apply for a life insurance policy. This might be hard for all of you to believe, but back in the day, it took 6 weeks to 6 to 8 weeks to get a life insurance policy approved to be able to deliver to your client a paper policy that you had to go visit them and get them to sign. And yeah, I mean, we could go down that path another day, but it was crazy compared to now, where you could do a policy right now and get paid on it in like 2 or 3 days and it could be auto approved. Clearly, we didn't have that back then. So her policy gets approved. I call her the same way that I normally do. Congratulations, your policy got approved. Let's get together. Let's review it. Let's put it in place for you. I go to meet with her, and right early in the conversation, she goes, I've decided I don't want this. And part of me, I mean, I'm just confused at that point. Like, we already transferred your RSP. Like, your RSP already got to like that. Like, so you're doing like she can't not do business with me at this point. Her RSP was already transferred. Her and I, but we both went through all the work, the process to get her this insurance policy. So I'm kind of trying to review it with her. Well, what do you mean? You've got a mortgage, you want to put money away, like this is tax-free. There was no TFSA at that time. And she goes, nope, just don't want it. And thankfully I kept it professional, but I was not happy, to say the least. Like, what do you mean? This is what you told me that you want. So I walk out of there, not super happy, but still professional. And I get a call from her not more than 2 weeks later. 2 weeks later, I get a phone call from her. She goes, hey, I got to update you on something. And I'm still kind of mad at her, right? I'm like, sure, what's up? And she goes, I listed my house. I sold it. I'm moving to the States. And I want to invest the equity from the house with you. And I remember, like, when I was just at your house 2 weeks ago and your house wasn't for sale, let alone sold. And it was a really hot real estate market back at whatever time that was. And so then, long story short, I meet up with her 3 or 4 days later. She hands me a check for $150,000, $175,000 And so the moral of the story that I'm getting at is that was just another example that you don't always know why somebody said no. So don't jump to conclusions that there's some, try to get better, try to learn from whatever you can from the scenario, but don't jump to conclusions as to why somebody quits or doesn't do business with you or whatever it might be, because you just don't know. All right, that was my tangent on, I convinced myself that I was glad that this business was hard. Took me 16 or 17 months to get my first good paycheck. My time up already?
Yeah.
I've only done like half my talk. Okay. All right. Here's so where oh, okay. I'm gonna do this in like speed mode. Okay. How about that? So it took me 16 months, 16, 17 months to get my first paycheck. I want you to think about what are you willing to give up for a period of time in order to have more time to put into your business. Just to be clear, you don't need to change anything. You don't have to give up anything. But, you know, for example, I was willing, if we look out that way, there's a golf course, Millwoods Golf Course. I actually kind of like Millwoods Golf Course because I'm not a very good golfer and it's very wide open. You don't lose a lot of golf balls. But I drove by that course every day wanting to play golf and going, no, I'm going to go to work and build my business. And I did that. And the reward a few years later, when my business was built and my income was way up, that now I get to play, now I get to play golf at literally the nicest golf courses in the entire world. So I gave up playing golf at Millwoods to get to play golf at Augusta and Kapalua, and the list kind of goes on and on and on and on. Successful people trade what they think they want right now for what they really want in the future. The first rule of business is to stay in business. How much business do you need to write to pay your bills? So if you need $3,000 to pay your bills, figure it out at your contract. How many points you need to write to be able to pay your bills. The first rule of business is to stay in business. And here's just and we all have a different picture of what we want our lives to look like 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when we're successful and we've built our business. But just to give you an idea, here's what the next 6 weeks look like for me. Aside from being in Calgary on the weekend, shout out to Calgary, no. But in the next 6 weeks, our family is going to be in London and Paris. We're taking our kids to Taylor Swift next week at Wembley Stadium in London. Then in the middle of September, we're going to be on the Odyssey trip with the Infantes, the Daws, the Agnews, the Fritches. That is in Norway and Sweden. And on the way, my wife and I are stopping in Iceland. So that's in the next 6 weeks, those 5 countries. Then if we add December into the mix, and I don't even know what's going to happen in between there, a bunch of us are going on a cruise. So we're going to be in Miami, the Bahamas, Dominican Republic, Turks and Caicos. My children don't know it yet, but we might be taking them to Atlantis and the Bahamas for Christmas time. And then we're talking about going to Tokyo for spring break next year. And you go back 20 years, and I'd show up at the pub on a Friday night at 10 o'clock in my suit to meet my friends. You know, they've been there for 3 or 4 hours. They're like half in the bag or more than that. And they're like, oh, look at you, fancy businessman in your suit. Oh, all you do is work all the time. Oh, all you do is care about money and all these types of things. Yeah. Guess what those people were saying a year or two later? They're like, how much money are you making right now? Where are you traveling? Like, tell us more about what your life is like. That's how things can change. But if you want big time success, it requires big time commitment. Not everybody wants that. That's okay. But for those of you that actually want that, keep that in mind. Big success requires big commitment. Thanks for being here, everybody. Have an awesome night.
All right, how awesome was that, guys? My God, I mean, there's so much tangible, and obviously just talking about how worth it is, right? Because, just even going from, hey, what are some things you can do to increase your confidence? Committing to building up your skills, to removing distractions, right? Is there anything that's maybe holding you back? Or are you spending time on certain things that maybe aren't serving you right now? It's not contributing to you reaching your goals. And man, I'm just awesome stuff. So thank you so much, Greg, for that. Our next speaker is, we're staying here live in Edmonton. This guy is my personal coach. I owe a lot to this guy. You know, him and his wife, Kyla, are best friends in the business and in life. And that's the cool thing too, is that, some of the best friends you're going to have in this, in life is going to be in this business. And so this guy, he's got north of 50 licenses within the super base, doing big things, and this year things are just about to crank up. So look at this guy, right? That's what he looks like now. Now he grows a big, nice beard, so that's good. Looks older. But without any further ado, 200, almost $250,000 earner, Mr. Curtis Lahovich. Let's give it up for him.
Come on. How's everybody doing? Good stuff. It's amazing looking at that photo and I'm like, man, not much has changed, you know, good stuff. And suit got a little bit tighter. We got a little bit of a beard going on. But how innocent does that guy look? Like he has no idea what's about to happen and rejection that he's about to go through and ups and some downs. And but what a special photo. I'm like, why am I holding the award that way? Like I just wouldn't do that, you know? Not very masculine, Curtis, but all good. Personal growth. And welcome. How's the event been so far? Man, what a cool thing to be put on. Yeah. So big thank you to Jen and for being a huge person in organizing this, and very grateful for the time to speak. What she asked me to talk about was a bit about getting people to events. So I want to go a little bit back in time to when before you saw that little punk with his little 5/5/30 award, and that was on my 3rd month in the business. I've been here for 3 months. Still, you know, I wasn't quite living on calorie shakes yet at that time, though I was super skinny, and we'll talk about that too. But I remember before I got started here, I was in the oil field. So I grew up on a farm, and then I went to the oil field. I didn't want to take over the family farm, and I was grateful for farming. Any of you farmers in here grew up on a farm? And nobody, come on, couple people on here kind of thing. And yeah, I wanted to get off the family farm. I went to the oil field. Any oil field people in here? Any trades kind of that going on? Okay. Few more. Any healthcare? Just I wasn't in healthcare. I was throwing out stuff. And but I went to the oil field, and I wasn't too sure what I wanted to do, but I knew one thing. I didn't want to go to school unless I was concrete certain what I wanted to do with my life, and I wanted to make some money. So I went to the oil field, and I'm so grateful for that experience because I found it something to a T that was exactly what I did not want to do the rest of my life. Any of you work a job, you're like, I'm not going to do this the rest of my life. Any of you done that? You're like, right here, let's go. And I found something that was to a T what I didn't want to do. I didn't want to be gone from home as much as I was gone from home. I didn't want to be on call 24/7, out of control of my time. I didn't want to be surrounded by miserable people all day at the company that I was working at. Any of you ever worked with some negative people before? Oh man, some of you right now, and some of you right now for sure. I didn't want that. You know, I want to be around people that are fired up, you know, pretty excited. They know what they want out of life. They want to grow. They want more. I was just telling in a recruiting meeting today, we're about to recruit this gal next week for one of my newest directs. They work in healthcare together as healthcare aides. And I talked about how, hey, I didn't want to refer to my wife as the old ball and chain. You guys know what I'm talking about? You know, I didn't want to just live for the weekend. I want to be excited about what I was doing every day. So around that time, I got a call from my sister. She introduced me a gentleman named Jay White, and I saw a WFG for the first time 11 years ago. We went to go submit my application. I'm like, dude, I'm sold. I remember asking him I asked him a lot of questions, but at the end, I'm like, how much money do you make? And he said, I made $23,000 last month. And he'd been here for a few years at that time, you know, making things happen. And I remember I was like, done, I'm all in. And we went to go submit my application. It didn't even go through. So I don't know what it said, but I just remember he looked dumbfounded. He's like, how old are you? You know? And I was like, fired up. I'm 17, brother. Let's go. So talking about young guns, definitely a young gun, that's for sure. And a couple of days later is my 18th. I got started, but I became a client, and I stayed a client a year and a half. Quit the oil field without Jay knowing. I went backpack Thailand. I came to the office to write I came back, studied full time, wrote my exams, came to the office, and I ran into Jay. So I'm full time. I just wrote my exams for my certification exams, not even my provincials yet. But I wrote my certification exams 9.5 years ago. And I ran into Jay, and he said, you know, I'm walking through the office, I'm leaving. Oh no, I just wrote my provincials. That's what happened. I was my provincials. I walked through the office to check it out, and I'm leaving. And Jay yells my name, and he's like, what are you doing here? Curtis, you know, what are you doing here? You know, you don't answer my calls anymore. You've been ghosting me. What's going on? And I was like, well, Good news, man. I quit my job. I back Thailand. I wrote my exams. I'm full time, brother. Let's go. You know? He's like, what the hell is wrong with you? So the next day he told me, I'll tell you what, if you're that serious about doing this and actually committed this time, he's like, dude, you need to go to Vegas. I'm like, what's Vegas? And I was like, I just turned, I was 19 years old. And I'm like, what's Vegas? And he's like, it's our biggest convention of the year. And I was like, dude, I just got back from Thailand. I spent all my money. It was awesome, but I'll catch you on the next one. We'll go next year, And he tried talking me into it, tried closing me, wasn't working. I was like, dude, I got $100 in my bank account. There's no way. And a gentleman named Dave Dollywall walks by, and Jay's like, dude, Dave, tell this kid he needs to go to Vegas. And Dave comes by and he's like, you're not going to Vegas? And I was like, well, I back Thailand. I'm full time, but I got $100. I'll go next year. Life's going to be good. And he starts challenging my thinking. And it's interesting because a leader's number one job is to change your mindset. Your job as a leader, number one job is to change people's mindset. And he says, I'll tell you what, rich people find ways to invest in themselves. And he says, poor people find ways to cut expenses. And I've never heard anything like this before. And then he drops another bomb on me. And he says, rich people look at this as an investment in themselves, where poor people would look at this like a cost, like you are, he says. I'm like, oh, nobody talked to me like that, Dave, And he says, and he starts challenging my mindset. And he said, I'll tell you what, life-changing. He tells me, if you go to Vegas and you come back, and it wasn't worth your time, and you think it was a waste of time, waste of money, keep all your receipts, give them to me. I'll write you a check for every dollar you spent, and I'll send you on your way. And he sticks out his hand, and he says, I'll see you in Vegas. And I'm like, I will see your ass in Vegas. So I shook his hand, and now I'm like calling people to borrow money. My dad wasn't even supportive of me starting here in the beginning, and he paid for my flights to go because I told him how much conviction I have. I mean, like 30 seconds, we're almost there. And how much conviction I have. I went back, I'm like, all the biggest players are going to be in Vegas. I got to go. So I found my way to go. I'm in the airport, and I got $1,000 credit card limit increase in the airport. Sitting on the plane, it went through. $1,000 credit. How badass is that? So I go to Vegas. And it was exactly what they told me it'd be. It's all the biggest players in the company speaking on stage, like-minded people. You feel a certain way. And now I understood what Jay's been trying to talk to me about, the power of this platform. I saw people winning for their families, people changing their lives, people doing once in a lifetime experiences all the time, living a free life, surrounded by positive, fired up people every single day. And I saw the power of this platform. So I want to tell you real quick, in that meeting, I planted my flag, and I'm like, this is the company where I want to change my life. So in closing, I want to tell you real quick why big events. Number one, you never want to gamble on big events. Here's why. You'll gain clarity on what you want. You might not even know everything you want in your life because your job maybe not allowed you to dream about it. That makes sense? So here, you'll gain clarity on what you want. You'll learn from the best people we have in the business. You'll be in the deepest state of belief in yourself ever possible. The deepest state of belief ever possible. You'll gain insights and strategies you get to implement so you can go shift the results you're getting in a massive way. And I'll tell you what, big decisions come from big events, and big results come from big decisions. So good job on being here. Good job, Zoom, for being here. We'll see you at the next big event.
All right, great job, Curtis. That's such a good message, and just the power of big events. And hey, this is an event, and you're taking this seriously, and you're showing up. Luckily, it didn't cost money, or it wasn't an investment of money. But the next time, right? A lot of us have one in out west, anyways. We have an event coming up in Edmonton. If you're out east, I'm sure you guys have your events coming up. But hey, regardless of how much it is, think of it as an investment in yourself and in your future, right? So with this, you guys, we're going to go from the west side of Canada over to the east side. We got some super studs coming up.